the present consciousness is a result of the, or the continuity of the previous consciousness 1 hour ago, and which is continuity of the consciousness of this morning, which is continuity of last month, yesterday, last week, last month, last year, and which is continuity of, our childhood. And you go back till when we have the conceptions in mother's womb, and that consciousness, the continuity of that consciousness, is again continue the past consciousness from the past life, and again that one is continuity of the life before that, and so because there is no beginning, and so therefore we have taken beginningless lifetime, and so each time we take life, then in many of those rebirth, such as animals, humans, and many others, then we depend on our mothers. And so, everyone has been our mothers, when we look from that point of view, we cannot say these sentient beings have not been our mother. Most kind mother, and not only they have been mother, each of them have been many times as a mother, as a human form, many times as a mother, as an animal forms, and many other different realms. So each of them has been our mother, not only just one time, many times. So that is the first point, recognizing. It's just that at the moment we don't remember and we cannot recollect. Just not remembering and not recollecting doesn't mean it hasn't happened. So many experience that I have gone through when I was very young, while I was mother's womb, when I was 1, 2, 3, many of those events, many of those experiences, I don't have any memory, I don't remember anything, but it doesn't mean I didn't have those experiences. It didn't mean I didn't have went through those things, but at the moment, I don't remember any of them. I cannot recollect any of them. So just because we cannot remember, just because we cannot recollect, it doesn't mean it has not happened. Therefore, through that point of, from that point of meditation, reflection, contemplation, then we come to understanding, everyone has been our most kind mother. And that's why in Buddhist, in Mahayana Buddhist, we use this term mother sentient beings to describe the sentient beings. That you see that term very often, and also here, Lama Tsongkhapa also using that, mother sentient beings. So that is the first point. Then second point is, then remember their kindness, and then again, some of those, their kindness, we might not remember unless we put effort to try to reflect and contemplate and recollect. Some of the bad experience we have with our parents, with our mothers, probably we don't have to put any effort to recollect. It's there. But everything they did for us, all the kindness they did for that, sometimes we don't remember that we have forgotten them. So the meditation is to reflect and contemplate and trying to recollect that, so that we can actually, recognize and be aware of that. So, if you read Lamrims, in many Lamrims, and they go very details in each of them, I don't know, with that, I should go in so details, but in generally speaking, first of all, the hardship the mothers go through, the willingness to go through a hardship that they will go through during those pregnant time, and during the birth. The mothers know, and because their compassion for the child, They are willing to go through all those difficulties in order to give birth to the child. Sometimes it is about even, mother could lose their life when they give birth. And they are aware of that. There could be all these complications, and that you could even lose your life. They are aware of that, but they are willing to go through that because they want to, their compassion, love and compassion child is so strong, they are willing to go through all that, And then, you give it birth to the child, and even you go through a lot of pain during the birth, in many cases, or in the last, before the birth, few weeks, months, but, the mothers is no complaint, but instead, when the child is born, and child is giving birth, so much joy, so much happiness, so much joy, so much happiness. And then when you are born, when you come in this world, you can't see it, you cannot speak it, you cannot eat it by yourself. You cannot even walk. You cannot do anything. You cannot go to bathroom. You don't know anything. You are so vulnerable. You will become so vulnerable, and that is when our parents, especially the mothers, out of their compassion, love, kindness, they protect and taking care of day and night, giving of all their their own happiness. Normally, if we cannot get a good sleep, we complain so much. But for the parents, especially mothers, at least for a few months, if not for a few years, they have to give up their own sleep. They have to wake up 3, 4, 5 times, even more. They hardly have any sleep. But they are willing to do that for the child, for the best of the child, because of their incredible love and compassion. And then, constantly being watchful, being aware, so, so much care for the upbringing of the child, teaching them how to, everything's teaching everything, so that we can stand on our own by ourselves, so that we can become independent, because we are so dependent on the parents, the mothers at the very beginning, for everything. And the parent, give up all their dreams, many of their dreams, many of their things they want to do in order to bring up the child, before they give birth to the child, they have many other dreams for themselves to do this and that. Once they give birth to the child, totally dedicated for the upbringing of the child, so they give up all this, their dream they have there, or they postponed all these dreams, because the priority becomes the child, upbringing of the child, the best of the child. That becomes the main priority in their life. Such is the sacrifice their parents put, especially the mothers. And again, we don't remember that. Many of them, we forget that. They feed us 3 times, sometimes 4, 5 times a day through our upbringings, until we are becoming old enough to be able to take care of ourselves. They do that every day, many times. But maybe they might have forgot to feed us one day, and probably we remember that. Probably we have remember of that, some of being starving or being hungry because one day they were late or something happened, they forgot to feed. But we forget everything that they have been feeding us 3, 4, 5 times every day for so many years. That is how our memory is. That is how our memory is. We have these very selective memories. Very selective memories, and many of those selective memories are bad memories. Not the good memories, the pleasant memories. When we have something bad happens, then and then that is how it is, unfortunately. And then slowly we have started to kind of store some of those memory of the bad experience that didn't happen so many times, but few little bit of throughout our upbringings. And all the good things, all the pleasant things we forget. And then it started to feel that is who they are. Our image of our parent is that what we remember is some of those, unpleasant memory. It's very unfortunate, but that is how it is, And so this meditation, the practice, is to actually consciously trying to recollect, remember all the kindness, everything out of kindness, everything they did for us. Because those memories doesn't come easily. So we have to kind of revisit by recollecting them and then refreshing them, our memories. And when you refresh that, slowly, as we remember, as we are able to recollect, remember that, then we begin to feel how kind, how much they have done for us. How kind and how much they have done for us, Even though we might have some not great experience once a while, but we will be able to understand and feel how much they have done and how much kindness they have shown to us, Mm. And some of them, they always, mean to do best for us, or sometimes maybe we might not agree with them. And for us, it was bad experience. It was unpleasant experience. But from the parent point of view, they try to do their best, I still remember, when I was, kind of teenager, 18, 19, I was not happy at the monastery, I have been in the monastery now by that time, 9 years, and I wasn't happy at the monastery, I had big struggles during those 2 years. So I wanted to leave. I didn't want to be monastery. I want to live. But my father wasn't supportive, for that decisions. Not only my father, my mom as well. All the families encouraged me to continue the path. They say it is best for me, But at that point, I felt they were very unsupportive, especially my father. I felt he was not kind. He was not understanding, um, he didn't think about me or my happiness, my well-beings, all of that, I did feel that, at that time, I did feel at that time, but things change, and then I decided to be on the path, make decisions to be on the path after 2 years of struggles. And now when I look back, I so much appreciate my families, especially my fathers, not to support me in that time of my decisions, and kind of push me. If he had supported me the way I felt at that time, probably, definitely, I wouldn't be in the monastery anymore. I wouldn't be a monk, And so anyway, so like that, at a certain time in our life, they try with their best, but we might not feel that it was best for us. And it might not be, we might not feel it was the best. At that time, it wasn't a good experience for me, but they did with their compassions, best for me, best for me. And so, and that is just one experience that, you go through so many in your life, And some of those experiences later we find out that was best. Some of them still we might not be able to reconcile, and still we might not be able to find why they did that, But again, whether what they did was the best or not, but the intention is the best, for the child. They might not be able to always be right, always make the right decisions. As being unenlightened human beings, ordinary beings, we are not perfect, even when we have the best intentions. Not only making a decision for the children, even for ourselves, sometimes we don't know what is the best for ourselves when we have to make decisions. We make decisions based on what we think is the best at that time, at that point. And so I think it's really, I feel it's very important to really, contemplate in that way, so that we don't have any hard feelings because of certain experiences that we have gone through, by reflecting on how much they have done for us, and our upbringings, trying to give their best educations, even they didn't get the best education themselves, they want to give the better education than themselves for the child. They are willing to invest so much of their time, energy, resources for the best of the best education of the child, Even that means sometimes they themselves put themselves in a difficult situations, but they are willing to do that, and they wish the child, progress and be more success than themselves, and such is the parents, especially the mothers, love and the kindness, Mm. And as we can see, even if you say historically, that our parents had a little better education than our grandparents. We have a little bit better education in terms of schoolings and all of that, better than our parents. And like that, of course, if you don't want to study yourself, that is, but otherwise most time is, and that is because your parent was willing to support you for better educations, for your better educations. They are willing to sacrifice their own resources and help in for your better education, and that is because of that, And so, and slowly, even when you have grown up, still the parents, still mothers, love and compassion is always there. Sometimes maybe too much, as a child, sometimes you feel like, you know, that was how I felt sometimes, my mother, treat me just as mothers, they can't stop, it's still their baby, you know. So even when even you are grown up, still they treat you like your own baby, They're always worried, constantly worried, and you don't want them to worry too much. But the mother cannot stop worrying, That is how much uh, their compassion and their love, affections, care, and concern, um, until their very last moment, they still have so much, you know, they don't worry about themselves so much, but they always worry about the children, how they are living, what they are doing, what will happen, who is taking care of them. My mother is constantly always worried about me because I'm from very different side of the world, no family here. So for her, because in our culture, it's all family, it's all families, so much families, the family supporting each other's way. And so she's always worried when you get sick or when something happens, who's going to take care of you? And she always said, do you live with someone or are you living? When I say I'm by myself, she always worried. What happens if he says, who's going to come and see, you know? And same things when I go flight, are you flying with your friends? And what if later I have to, with the best intention, I have to lie her, I'm flying with someone because she constantly get worried, if I say I'm flying by myself. But that is how the mothers are, the mothers love and compassion, concern and care, So anyway, so that is second point. Remember the kindness of mother. And so everyone has been like that, so much loving, compassionate, caring, kind in many times. All of them have been like that many times, many times. Not just one time, many times. It's just that we don't remember, cannot recollect, but many times. And then also, they have been so kind and compassionate and caring, even when they were not mothers, sometimes when they were our fathers, sometimes when our grandparents, sometimes as our friends, sometimes as, our others, relative and so forth, so many times. Not only that, even when they were not our friends and relatives, we receive their kindness indirectly, everything that we experience, all the comfort, all the enjoyment, all the happiness we experience in life, it comes through so many people, so many sentient beings, indirectly, you know, all the robes, all the clothes I'm wearing to keep myself warm, the food that I'm eating to be to survive, to be healthy, all the medicine I'm taking when I'm not feeling well, the house, the shelter is there's so much contribution. There's so many people. It's just not just you have money to buy them. Even if you have money, if there's no people who work for that, it doesn't. And each of those things that make whatever those objects are made by so many other beings, you know, we don't know, we don't know who made them, you know, but there are so many people involved to produce that things. And then from that, we are able to get a comfort from those objects. And so there is contribution from others. And so therefore, there's the kindness of them in that by providing that, you know. And so by recollecting, remembering that each of them like that, then we begin to see how each and each sentient beings are so kind and help and benefit directly, indirectly, in each and every life from the beginning of time. And that will be continue until we achieve enlightenment. You know. So the more we remember the kindness, the more we are able to feel the kindness, the more it brings us closer to them mentally. The more it brings closer to them, the more we feel their kindness, the more we feel, we feel preciousness, dearness of them. The more we feel dearness, preciousness of them, we feel more closer. And when we feel more closer, then it is more easier to develop love, compassion, both the mind. So second point is reflecting the kindness of mother, and then third is cultivating the thoughts, the wish and the thought to repay the kindness. Once you remember the kindness, then of course you want to repay the kindness. It comes quite easily and naturally. If you feel someone's kindness, then of course you will want to repay the kindness back. If you don't feel the kindness of others, then of course we don't have the wish to repay the kindness. But if you really feel the kindness, then the wish to do something back, the wish to give something back, the wish to repay the kindness come easily, more naturally. And then in terms of that, there are so many different ways of repaying the kindness, by helping whatever their needs are in whatever way we can, directly, indirectly, whatever help, whatever support, whatever needs they need, trying to be there. But those are just we try to do that. But the best way to repair the kindness is to help them to free them from all the suffering, not just one suffering, but all the suffering. But not all the suffering only for a short term, but to help them to overcome all the suffering permanently. If we can do that, that is the best way to repay the kindness. There's nothing other better way to repay the kindness. And so in order to do that, then helping them to overcome their own karma and delusion, because their own karma and delusion is the root of their problem and sufferings. And so that is the best. So therefore cultivate a strong wish, that I want to repay them the kindness back. I want to repay the kindness back by supporting, by helping them to free them from all the suffering and cause of suffering completely, permanently. So cultivating that strong wish, to do that. So meditating, reflecting, and then trying to build up that kind of strong wish to repair kindness in that best way, the best way to repair kindness. And so that. And then, the fifth is meditation on, loving kindness, Even though those, most kind mother sentient beings want to be happy all the time, even though they wish to be happy, but they struggle to be happy. Not only they struggle, not only they do not have true lasting happiness of nirvana, liberation, but even they struggle with the samsaric happiness. Even with the samsaric happiness, they struggles, And so reflecting, contemplating on that, even though they wish to be happy 24 hours all the time, but they struggle to find that happiness, that peace, that joy that they wish, And as we reflect on that, and because we already felt close to them with previous meditations, dear, kindness, and close to them. And once you feel, once through these meditations, then you feel, how they struggle for that happiness, then you cultivate a strong wish, wishing them to have all the happiness, wishing them to have all the happiness, wishing them to have all the happiness and the cause of happiness, wishing them not only to have just a temporary samsaric happiness, but wishing them to have ultimate, true lasting happiness and the cause of those happiness. So of course, temporary happiness, healthy life, long healthy life, good life, prosperity, and most importantly, happy life. And then not only that, then wishing them the ultimate happiness and the cause of ultimate happiness. And trying to feel that strong through meditation, very strong about that. So that is the meditation on loving kindness. And then fifth one is meditation on compassion. Even though no mother sentient beings wish to suffer, no mother sentient beings wish to suffer and experience pain and problems. But again, even they do not wish, but they continue to experience suffering, pain, and problem endlessly, one after another, one after another. Kind of never ending, one after another. As again, reflecting, contemplating that, understanding and feeling that. Again, once you understand, they are constantly experiencing one problem, suffering, pain, one after another, endlessly. Right? Then again, you feel, because you already through previous meditations, again, you feel very close, very dear, kindness of them, then again, you feel unbearable of those pain and sufferings. Just like if you see that kind of suffering in your child, only loving child, how unbearable you feel, and how much you wish them to be free from that suffering, cause of suffering, that problem. And you are willing to do anything to help them to free from that suffering and pain, same way. Then again, similarly, we do that kind of meditations so that we feel them and we wish them to be free from all the pain, all the suffering, all the problem, and the cause of all the suffering, all the pain, all the problems. Again, not only for temporary, short term, but to be free from all the suffering, problem, and pain completely, permanently, together with their cause. Together with all the cause that produce those suffering, pain, and problems. So that is the meditation on, that's a meditation on compassions, the fifth one. And then, not only you wish them to be free, not only you wish them to be free from all the suffering and cause of suffering permanently, and not only you wish them to be have happiness and cause of happiness, ultimate happiness and cause of ultimate happiness, but cultivating a strong, extraordinary attitude that I'm going to do that myself. Not just wishing them to be free from suffering, but I'm going to engage myself to free them from suffering. Not only I wish them to be happiness, but I'm going to do myself to free them, to lead them to happiness and cause of happiness. So through that, you cultivate a strong, extraordinary, strong, attitude, much more stronger attitude than the loving kindness and compassion, taking the responsibility on yourself to do that. So I myself is going to lead them to happiness and cause of happiness. I myself will free them from suffering and cause of suffering. So cultivating that strong attitude, taking the responsibility on yourself, you know. Sometimes, you know, for example, that we see, you know, is even in our world, when you see the problem in the world, you know, we want those sub problem in the world to be fixed because we see it is a problem for so many beings. But sometimes we want to see that those problems be solved, but we want the government to just solve the problem or someone else to solve the problem. We are not willing to take the responsibility ourselves to solve the problem. So that is a little bit like the first two, but in this special attitude, you are not, you know, giving the responsibility to someone to solve the problem, but you are willing to take the responsibility yourself to do that. And so that requires stronger attitude, stronger mind, you know, stronger attitude, stronger mind. So that is what we call is, you know, special attitude, you know, or in Tibetan it's laksam. Sometimes I think it can be translated universal responsibility. And so taking that responsibility, so that is the sixth, you know, that's a sixth. So those six are the cause that give rise to the result, the bodhicitta mind, the effect. You know, that is why it is called 7 point of cause and effect, because there are 7 points, and the first 6 points are the causes, and the 7th one is the result. Through the practice of those 6 practices, meditation and causes, then it gives rise to the result, the bodhicitta mind, which is the result, the effect. So once you have that, you know, special attitude, you know, now you really want, you know, now not only you wish them to be free from suffering, cause of suffering, and wish them to be happiness, cause of, but now you have made this strong, taking this strong responsibility with this special attitude to do yourself. So you have this wonderful, very strong, you know, courageous attitude, very courageous attitude, incredible, powerful courage. In the mind, but, you know, we ourselves is in samsara. We ourselves is suffering, not much different from the sentient beings. We ourselves is confused because of the unenlightened, because of the delusions. And so then as much as you want to do something for others, but you can't do much at this point with your present situation. Just like, you know, someone is, you know, let's say it was, you know, someone is swept away by the river and you want to save that person, but you don't know how to swim yourself. So you know, in terms of the wanting to save that person, you know, you have, you know, even you want to sacrifice yourself, even you want to jump yourself into that river to save that, but you are unable to save because you yourself is similar situation because you don't know how to swim yourself. And that is similar situation we are. Not only the sentient beings are being swept away by those sufferings and the cause of suffering, we ourselves is also swept away by those cause suffering, unable to, you know, protect or unable to save also ourselves. So then when you reflect, you know, is there anyone who can Is there anyone who can help, guide, and lead all sentient beings from the suffering and cause of suffering? Free them from all the suffering, cause of suffering, and guide them to ultimate happiness and cause of happiness? When you reflect, contemplate, when you try to investigate, analyze, then you begin to see only if you can achieve fully enlightened, then you can do that. If you cannot achieve, unless you achieve that fully enlightened state, you can only help, benefit very limited way, in very limited way, and only to very limited sentient beings. Even the great bodhisattvas and arhat, even they do not have any delusions, the arhat, even the great bodhisattvas, even they have cultivated such a incredible, strong bodhicitta mind, and even they have the wisdom realizing emptiness and so many other qualities, inner qualities, still they can only help and benefit sentient beings. Of course, much more than we, but also very limited way, very limited. As much as they want to help each and every sentient beings, but they are unable to help each and every sentient being. You know, it's like, you know, there are 10 sentient beings who need your help, you know, but you can only give attention to one person at one time. You are unable to help 10 of them because you have only one body, only two hands. So you can only help one person at a time. Even though your mind want to do help all of them together at one because they're all in the same situations. Such is that, you know. So even the bodhisattvas, even though in terms of their intention, motivation, they want to be able to benefit and help each and every sentient beings all the time simultaneously, but they don't have that ability because they are not fully enlightened. And so when you reflect on them, then you begin to understand, you know, if you want to help and benefit each and every sentient beings limitlessly, simultaneously, to free from their all suffering and cause of all suffering, lead them to the ultimate happiness, then, you know, one must achieve that fully enlightened state. And once you realize that through that kind of reflection, contemplation, meditation, once you realize that from the depth of your heart, then your wish to achieve that fully enlightened state arises, manifests naturally and very strongly. And that wish to achieve that fully enlightened state, the fully awakened state, that is driven by loving kindness, compassion, and that special attitude is the bodhicitta mind. That is the bodhicitta mind, the result. So in terms of following the that particular 7 cause and effect method, how to cultivate the bodhicitta mind, so that is kind of we finished that without going in so much details, but we just kind of touch on that. And then next one is in terms of bodhicitta, how definitions of having cultivated the bodhicitta mind or realizations of the bodhicitta mind, you know, measurement. How do we know when we have cultivated bodhicitta mind, whether we have cultivated bodhicitta mind or not, you know? How do we know? So, you know, so that one. And that one, the 8th one, that one is not actually in the root text of Lama Tsongkhapa, so it is taken from another text, you know. But in the actual root text itself, that particular is not there, but it is taken there because with each others he go through 3, you know, why we develop, how to develop, and the definition of having developed. So that is why. In short, if like mother whose cherished sons has fallen into the pit of fire, and who experience even 1 second of his suffering as an unbearable eternity. Your reflection on suffering of all mother sentient beings has made it impossible you to bear the suffering for even 1 second, and the wish seeking enlightenment for their sake arise without effort, then you have realized the supreme precious mind of the enlightenment. So for example, for the, of course, it doesn't have to be son, it's just an example. The only precious child of the mother, if the precious child of the mothers, fall into the fire pit, how much unbearable the pain and suffering the mother will have, and the mother is willing to jump in order to save and protect that child. That's how she feels. That's how she feels because of by seeing and the feeling the unbearable suffering of that. In a similar way, when you see the suffering and pain of mother sentient beings, and it feel like your own sufferings. It feel like your own suffering. Just as you feel your child suffering as your own suffering, maybe even more unbearable than your own sufferings. Similarly, when you see and feel the pain of others, sentient beings, so unbearable, that you want to free them from that suffering. Immediately you want to free them from their suffering, their pain, immediately, so strongly, immediately, and in order to do that, then you feel like you need to achieve that enlightenment. Otherwise you cannot do that to free them from all their suffering, cause of suffering immediately. And so with that, then that you have the wish to achieve enlightenment very strongly and without effortlessly. And when that happens, when you have that feeling day and night, effortlessly, naturally, spontaneously, then that is when you have actualized the realization of Bodhicitta mind and enter the first path of the Bodhisattvas. And you become real, actual Bodhisattva at that time. At the moment, we are aspiring to be on Bodhisattva path. We are aspiring to be a Bodhisattvas, but we are still not Bodhisattvas. But once you cultivate that mind effortlessly that way, Bodhicitta mind, then that is when you actually become Bodhisattva, actual Bodhisattva, and enter the first path of the Bodhisattva. Mm-hmm. So also in some other sutra, in other scriptures, they also give the definition of having cultivated a great compassion. So again, it might be similar here, also here, like if the mother has the only precious child is sick, have some illness, sick, the mother cannot stop from not thinking about the pain and suffering of the child who is sick. Every time, always that thoughts come, the concern and the feel the pain and suffering of the child, and the wish to how to free them from that illness, from that child, that sickness comes constantly, and you don't have to put any effort, it just comes. If you wake up middle of the night, that thought comes. While you are eating, again, that thought comes. While you are walking, going for a walk, your job, that thought comes. Whatever you are doing, that thought comes, just, you can't stop. And that comes just naturally, spontaneously, effortlessly. So similarly, like that, when it comes like that, then that is when we have realized developed the realization of that. So again, Of course, in order to reach that effortlessly, point where effortlessly that you have day and night, effortlessly like that thoughts arising, at the very beginning, we have to put effort. At the very beginning, when you meditate by putting effort, when you contemplate, when you try to contemplate, when you try to meditate, when you meditate and you contemplate, of course, it requires some effort. When you do that, you started to feel that. But when you don't meditate, when you don't contemplate, when you don't put effort, you don't feel that. At the very beginning, it's like that. But with the practice, slowly, as you do the practice, as you do the meditations more and more, as you do the practice meditation more and more, with a consistent and continuity, and over the time, then it required less and less effort. Even when you contemplate and meditate, you don't have to put so much effort. The moment you go into the meditation, the contemplation, you just go in that state of mind, that state of practice, that without much effort, very easily. At the very beginning, probably it would not be like that, You have to put a lot of effort. But slowly, you just try to put effort a little bit at the very beginning, then the practice become, without much effort, you can go. And it started to become, more and more effortless. It required less and less effort, and then reach a point where without any effort, you started to have that feeling. The moment you see one suffering sentient beings, that thought just arises. You don't have to meditate, you don't have to contemplate. That thought just arises. The moment you see any sentient beings, that just arises. And so the moment you think of suffering sentient beings, that thought just arises. And so that is when that happened, and that's when we have developed the Bodhicitta realizations. So now, so with that, we finished the second principal aspect of the path, Bodhicitta. And the third one is, the principal aspect of the path is the wisdom, realizing the right view or the ultimate truth or reality. So again, also with that, how to, why reasons or the why, the purpose to cultivate the wisdom realizing the ultimate truth, and then establishing the right view. That means how to develop the right view, the wisdom realizing the right view, and then the definitions of having understood the right view unmistakably, correctly. So again, from that point of view. So the first one, why we need to cultivate the wisdom realizing emptiness or the ultimate truth. So the reason to meditate on the right view. Without the wisdom realizing the ultimate reality, even though you have generated renunciation and the mind of enlightenment, you cannot cut the root cause of cycling. Therefore, attempt the method to realize the dependent arisings. So, as we have mentioned before, once you have developed renunciations, then you are no more attached to the samsara, and thereby, it take care of a lot of, negative emotions, you don't have a strong, strong attachment, strong desire, And then having cultivated the bodhicitta mind, loving kindness, compassion, then again, You don't have any kind of strong selfish attitude, egoistic mind. By not having those selfish mind and egoistic mind, again, many problems it being solved, many problems that arises due to that selfish mind, due to that egoistic mind are solved. And but still, and um, and by having cultivated the renunciations, then all the virtues you engage into become cause of liberation instead of cause of samsara. Having cultivated the bodhicitta mind, whatever virtues you engage into, all of them become cause of fully enlightenment instead of being cause of samsara or the cause of individual liberations, but they all become cause of enlightenment. Even though because of the bodhicitta mind, even though you hardly get much angry, you hardly any anger or hatred, harsh feelings, ill will feeling hardly arises, because of that. But still, unless you have wisdom realizing the emptiness, you cannot cut the very root of all the delusions and the very root of the samsara itself. And without having cut the very root of samsara, the root of all the delusions, then you cannot destroy the delusion completely, Then you cannot destroy the delusion completely. Completely and permanently, Through different practices, through different meditations, you might be able to, you might be able to stop those afflictive emotions from manifesting, but you will not be able to get rid of those delusions completely, because the root is still there. Because the root is there, then when sudden cause and condition comes, then again, it can manifest. So what the practice, some other practice does is, that it keep away the cause and conditions that give rise to that. And thereby it doesn't arise because you are able to keep the cause and condition away. But when you are unable to do that, and when the cause and condition come together, then again, delusion can arise. So you cannot get, so therefore, in order to cut the very root of all these delusions and all the samsara, then you need the wisdom realizing ultimate reality, because the very root of all the delusion and samsara is the fundamental ignorance, is the fundamental ignorance. When we study about the 12 link, how we kind of take rebirth in samsara and how we experience the sufferings. The first link is the ignorance. So everything starts from there. The fundamental ignorance. That is where, due to the ignorance, then attachment and anger arises. And due to the attachment and anger, then many other afflictive emotions arises. And due to all these other afflictive emotion delusions, then we experience suffering and problem and pain. So then it goes back to the very root of that. And in order to destroy that fundamental ignorance, then you need to destroy that, you need some positive antidotes that can totally contradict that that fundamental ignorance. that's something that is opposite forces, that is something opposite forces of that ignorance that could destroy that ignorance. And for that, the wisdom, realizing ultimate truth, is necessary and needed, you know. Mm. For example, there are many, many different practice meditation. For example, through the meditation of, you know, karma abiding, you know, single pointed meditations, mindfulness meditation, single pointed concentration, you know, karma abiding meditations, you know. When you are in that, when you have very strong meditation of that, when you have deep meditation of that, you know, then definitely, you know, you can use that tool, you know, to stop those afflictive emotions from arising. Or even if they arises, not to get caught up in them, so that you can let it go in the moment, you know. So it is a great method. It is a great, because, you know, you don't get caught up. Even anger arises. It's just one momentary. And so because you don't get caught up, you know, you have the ability and practice to just be aware and watch and not to get involved with that, then it will disappear. It comes and disappear. But still, time to time it arises. And by arising it is a problem. It doesn't become a big problem now because we don't end up being in that state for a long time because of our that practice and meditations. You know, it's like one spark of fire and then it's gone. At the moment there is spark, and then we get engaged with that with other thoughts. So it's like putting a fuel on the spark, and then fire starts. You know, but through those meditation, you don't allow that fire to happen. There is spark and it's gone. It's a moment. There's a arising of any of those delusions, and through your meditation, through your practice, you don't kind of get caught up in that. So that is great. Is a great technique, and is very helpful, beneficial. But still, there's spark coming time to time. So it's better if there is no spark at all. You know. And on the other hand, you know, if you have developed very highly developed single pointed concentrations, through your that meditative concentration, highly developed meditative concentration, you are able to stop all your thoughts, feeling, conceptions, because you are able to keep your mind single pointedly to whatever object of that meditation. No other thought arises while you are in that meditation. So again, when you are in that meditation, not even the spark arises, you know. Not even the spark of those delusion arises, you know. But when you are not deep meditations, then again, when you face certain cause and conditions, then again, those spark will arise. When you are deep meditations, you can stop them from arising. But when you are not deep meditation, because you can't be in deep meditations for the sentient beings, the Buddha, one of the qualities of the Buddha is he can be in meditative concentration, or what you call meditative equipoise, at the same time to be able to function in normal simultaneously. For sentient beings, they cannot do that. When you are in deep meditative equipoise, deep meditation, then you cannot function other things. And when you are able to function other things, when you are talking, when you are doing other things, you can't be in that deep meditation, meditative equipoise. And so therefore, when you come out of that meditation, deep meditation equipoise, then you get engaged in other things that we need to engage, and then again, cause and condition arises, and delusion, spark of the delusion arises. So that is not the ultimate solutions. It's a great practice is a great tool, but still is not the absolute, or is not the the permanent solutions. Same with other meditations, for example, through loving kindness, compassions, we can stop some delusions. When you are in that deep loving kindness, compassions, angers, impatience, hateful feeling do not arise, because that mind is contradiction to those mind. So when you have that manifestation, that those other delusion of mind cannot arise. But it cannot stop ignorance from arising, because that loving kindness, compassion cannot contradict the ignorance. The way ignorance grabs the objects, and the way loving kindness, compassion perceive the object, they do not contradict. Therefore, while you have loving kindness, compassion, you cannot stop the ignorance. You cannot stop the ignorance from arising. Neither you can stop, attachment from arising by that meditation itself, by that practice itself, by that compassionate mind, loving kindness mind, bodhicitta mind. On the other hand, we can do some other meditations. When you are attached to certain objects, we think of, essenceless of that objects, the suffering nature of that objects, the impermanent nature of that objects. Through those different meditations, we might be able to let go of attachment and not be attached to that objects. Through that wisdom, realizing that it doesn't give a rise to the those attachments, but then that wisdom, that meditation cannot stop the anger from arising. It stops the attachment from arising, but it cannot stop anger from arising. It cannot stop, other negative emotion from arising. So it means you need to meditate so many. It is one antidote to one of those delusions. Are we clear here? Yeah. Loving kindness, compassion being attachment, antidote to anger and hateful, and the others meditation such as impermanent and essenceless of the objects, and all of that being antidote to the attachments, and different practice, rejoicing as being attachment to the jealousy, and the practice and meditation and humility as being a antidote to the pride or arrogant. So each of those different meditation practice as an antidote to each of those individual afflictive emotions. But when we have the wisdom, relaxing emptiness that act as antidote to all the delusions, with one antidote, you can destroy all the delusions. It's like a one medicine for all the illness. At the moment, we have to take different medicine and different treatment for different illness. With other antidote, is like that. It acts as antidote to the one particular delusions. So it is like taking a medicine for different individual, different illness, sickness. But the wisdom relies on the ultimate truth or reality. Is like one medicine for all the illness. Because the wisdom relies on the ultimate truth, deal with the very root of all the delusions. That is the fundamental ignorance. And when you destroy the very root of all of them, then none of the delusion can arise. There is no more root for them, the delusion to base on. And so therefore, that is why the wisdom relies on the ultimate truth is the key. And that is why, so much emphasis is given on that. If we see all the Buddha's, all the Buddha's teachings, at least all the Buddha's teachings that have been translated in the Tibetan language from the Indian language, there are more than 100 volumes of them, sutras. And among all of them, more than 16 volumes of them are just on the wisdom. Others, there's 1 volume, 2 volume, 3 volume, 5 volume on different topic, different subjects. Not so many, as many volumes, like 16 or more than 16 for just one subject. But when it comes to the wisdom, the Prajnaparamitas, there's 16 volumes. It's most in sutra, the most teaching you find in the wisdom. And if you read all the Nagarjuna's writing, you see that his writing on loving kindness, compassion, bodhicitta, the method, there is a little bit, but very, very little. Mostly is on wisdom. Then, Aryadeva, his disciples, main disciple, Chandrakirtis, which came much more later. All of them, again, the most of their writing are on wisdom. Because that is the important key. And that is also even the title of, Heart Sutra is called Heart Sutra because the subject of that sutra is the emptiness, the ultimate reality, the wisdom relies on ultimate reality. And that subject, the ultimate reality, is the very heart of all the Buddha's teaching. It's the very essence of all the Buddha's teachings. And that is because all the different teaching Buddha gave and the practice and teaching that he gave is to help sentient beings to release themselves from their own afflictive emotions, which is the root of their own problem and suffering. So all his teachings and practice are given in order for sentient beings to release or free themselves or liberate themselves from their own afflictive emotions. And in order to free from all the afflictive emotions, then you have to cut and destroy the very root of all those afflictive emotions. And in order to destroy the very root of all the afflictive emotions, then you need to develop the wisdom relies on the ultimate reality or truth. And so that is why one need to cultivate the wisdom relies on the ultimate truth or ultimate reality, the right view. Okay. So I think maybe I will stop here. So maybe I will kind of open for a few minutes for if anyone has any questions, comment, either from today or last. Does anyone? The code is open. I guess it's a good sign, maybe. One of my teachers used to say, of course, he always encouraged us to ask questions, and that was also part of our training or study. When we study, it is all debate, not only in our class, among the students, but even when you go and get teaching from our teachers, it's all debate, he will say something and then we have to prove that is wrong, or something wrong or right, whatever, so whatever statements that he have to be able to hold with all other reasoning and logic, whatever comes, to be able to withstand any kind of other reasoning logics, so that your point, whatever your understanding of the passage, of the statements or whatever that, so that you can, so everything has to be able to withstand the reasoning and logics. And so that is always so that even when even he explained from his point of view what his understanding of that passage or that statements from that particular teachings, sutras, and all of that. And then, then that is, and then anyway, so, and then he will say, sometime when we don't have questions, he said, either you have not understood anything or you have understood everything. So I guess, when you understood everything, then you don't have questions, or when you don't have understood anything, then you don't have questions because you didn't understand anything to ask any questions, so it is one of them that he used to say, so I guess I take that, and maybe I guess you understood everything. Okay, then we do the dedication if there's no questions. And yeah, and next we'll do with our last sessions. Okay. Okay. So we can do the dedications. Due to the merits of these virtuous actions, may I quickly gain the state of Guru Buddha and lead all living beings without exception into that enlightened state. May the Supreme Jewel Bodhicitta that is not arising, arise and grow. And may that which is arising not diminish, but increase more and more. Due to all the past, present, and future merit collected by me and all the merits of 3 times collected by numberless Buddhas, numberless sentient beings, which have completely empty of existence from their own side, may I, who am completely empty of existence from my own side, achieve the state of fully enlightened, which is completely empty of existence from its own side, and lead all sentient beings who are completely empty of existence from their own side to that state which is completely empty of existence from its own side by myself alone, who am completely empty of existence from my own side. Jiden kamde pende malu ba kangle chungwe sambe yishi no karin chungme tenzin jazo la sowa deso tuje lundu sho. Tuzu changshin jamgun jawe tenzin chungpe we kunso tobo le cho song kuwe le ma tutu. Thank you very much, everyone. Thank you. Good night. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Angela. Thank you.
Thank you. Take care.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye. Bye. Thank you.